Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest, Cammy. Hey there, Cammy. Welcome back.
Hey, Bryant. Thank you.
How's it going?
Fantastic. How are you?
Doing good. We're trucking along June. It's still pretty crazy, but it's summer. July's on the corner. And what better to talk about than the Gargoyle today?
Right, exactly.
Speaking of,
it makes so much sense.
Cool summer pool locations and splash pads. It's the same thing. Yeah, that's what we're gonna be discussing today. So Gargoyles, you may be aware of them. You may have known the animated series that came out when I was like a baby. That was pretty good, actually. Although I can barely remember it, but I definitely had an action figure of one of those guys. This is a really fun one too. I say that a lot, but I'm really excited about this. I feel like I'm gonna really just kind of unveil this. It's very simple, very straightforward, and I like that a lot. So as always on Mythstorie, Cammy's gonna give a story on this myth, legend,
cryptid,
work of masonry. Yeah. And then I'm gonna talk about what is a gargoyle, what makes them tick. I guess that works. Yeah. But Cammy, why don't you go ahead and regale us with your story?
Absolutely. So I used NormandyThenAndNow.com, The Legend of Saint Romain and the Dragon in Rouen.
Did he invent? Oh, sorry. Did he invent romaine lettuce? Is this a double myth?
No, but there is some weird stuff with lettuce. You should look it up. It's specifically romaine lettuce. No, I don't think it's the next episode. I've just been seeing a lot of TikToks about lettuce recently. So yeah, some interesting things there. It was apparently used as a pain reliever in Egypt, I want to say. But of course they named it after the Romans.
No ibuprofen.
Don't know.
You gotta stick with lettuce. Right. That's crazy. I'm sorry to derail that. Please,
no,
Cammy,
that's okay.
Hit us with the story about Mr. Romain.
Okay. Rouen, terrorized for generations by the bat-skinned creature Les Gargoyles, was ready to offer another sacrifice to the creature. The beast craved a maiden. The townspeople could not bear to lose another youth to him. They pleaded for outside help. The Archbishop, Saint Romain, came to their aid and told them not to offer the monster any sacrifice to spare them. The creature was enraged when he flew over the village and did not see his sacrifice. He swooped down to the nearby river and blocked the water's passing, effectively damming it. Then he hurled flaming rocks from his mouth at the village walls. The entire town was frightened and looked to the Archbishop for his guidance. He proposed they pretend to give up a sacrifice and went to the men awaiting the gallows for their crimes. None of the prisoners could bring within themselves the courage to volunteer, even with the promise of freedom, should they survive. None except one man. Though history has lost his name, his bravery is known to this day. The prisoner followed the Archbishop to the town square and shouted to the beast that he had brought a sacrifice to him. As soon as the creature came forth, the Archbishop made the sign of the cross in the air, and Les Gargoyle was stunned. He sank to the ground, and the two men tied a heavy chain around his neck. Then the townspeople came out of their hiding places and burnt him at the stake. His body was engulfed quickly, but his head and neck, tempered by the flames he spat so easily, would not burn. So they used the chain to hoist him up to the top of the cathedral, and he instantly turned to stone. For centuries he remained there, his presence warding off all the evil that could befall that place.
Oh, that's so cool. I was wondering where that was going. Very interesting. So, Cammy, do you know the sound you make when you have a liquid in your mouth and you tilt your head back and you go, "Ah, ah." Do you know what that word's called?
Yes, it's a gargle.
It's gargle, right? You're gargling.
Yes, the
What if
sound of water and air in your mouth and throat.
What if I told you that's what a gargoyle basically is?
Wow.
All right, guys.
It's just that noise.
Good episode. We'll see you next week on Mythstorie.
I want some explanation, Bryant.
Yeah. So this is a very practical thing. And it's nice. So I used Wikipedia. Of course, they've got it pretty straightforward. But there's a lot of write-ups on this. I came to a lot of like blogs. Ravenwoodcastle.com had a nice write-up on it. And there were a few YouTube videos that I noticed that talked about it too, but I'm not really using them here. What it is the gargoyle creature sort of evolution. And since ancient Egypt, to the ancient Greeks, the classical Romans, so on and so forth, till the 18th, 19th centuries, gargoyles were tools for buildings that were essentially water spouts. They directed rainwater specifically, so that way the rainwater wouldn't go and erode the mortar in between walls. And another kind of various reasons, but they were practical spouts to move water a specific way so it wouldn't ruin the architecture. And so the word gargoyle, which is French, comes from which also there's the French verb gargariser, which shares the Latin root with the verb meaning gargle, which, it's very onomatopoeia. Mm-hmm. If you put listeners right now, grab a glass of water or your wine, throw it in your throat and gargle, and it sounds you're making the word. It sounds like you're saying it as you do it. And so that's kind of what it was. And so the gargoyles specifically are known to be, especially lions throughout history and things like that. What's interesting here, and this is important to note, if you see a building and it's got beasts on it, those, even if they look like gargoyles, they're the winged demonic kind of dudes, they're not gargoyles. They're technically something you would either call a grotesque, a chimera, or a boss. That's what those are. If they don't have the practical purpose of rainwater or water spouting, gargling, if they're not gargling, then they're not a gargoyle.
So they're just there to ward off evil.
Correct. And yeah, this is the thing I tried to find. I tried to be smart. Didn't quite work out. I wanted to find out if there was a specific point, when that happened, that changed, that where we kind of called that. And other than like the animated show in 92 or 94 or whatever, there's not too much, but there is this guy, Lester Burbank Brittingham, who lived up to be a whopping 122. He was born in 1899 and died in 92 himself, so he was 2 years shy of watching the animated series. He wrote a couple books, one in 69 called Gargoyles, Chimeras, and the Grotesques in French Gothic Sculpture, and then another book called The Gargoyle Book, 572 examples from Gothic architecture. That's Lester Burbank Brittingham. These are available, I think, for free on Google's stuff. These kind of go specifically into this, and he actually kind of says here, I'm going to quote the quote on Wikipedia. So he says, "There is much symbolism in the sculpture of the Gothic period, but we must be wary of reading in too much meaning." So absolutely, these things did mean something. I think, if you're an architect or a mason or architecture of some kind, that's the word, of some kind in the ancient classical period or whatever, you got to make a spout. You're going to make it look cool, like it's beauty and function. That was a big part of those periods, and so it makes sense to make it look like a being. And I'm reminded too. I'm a huge fan of all the Viking books, like The Last Kingdom that I've read, and all the other books. And Viking ships, you'll see them in pictures, and it's well known. They would have heads that they could put at the base of the ship, that they were actually removable. They were like dragon heads or fearsome looking carved heads that they would slide in the very front, and they would specifically take them out though when they were in areas they didn't want to like scare the spirits. It was if they were trading and they didn't want to scare anybody, including spirits, they would take them off, but we would put them on. And that certainly applies. Wikipedia notes that the Catholic Church specifically used the primary use of the gargoyle was to illustrate evil through the form of the gargoyle. So this may explain why it's in very famous French cathedrals and things like that. Now, many of those cathedrals. And here's the word for the day: apotropaic devices. Apotropaic magic is the use of imagery to ward off evil. So the Gorgon, which we've talked about on our Medusa episode, that is an apotropaic. I got to look at it again. Apotropaic device. Having Gorgon heads on your belt, your shield. They would do, Greeks and Romans would have that on them. The evil eye we've mentioned too in our Sahir episode. These are apotropaic devices used to, it's my evil to ward off your evil. So I guess like in some ways it kind of was two birds with one stone. We've got to have water running through here, and also it's scary. All the bad, voodoo demons are going to go away because of this. And funny enough, that's kind of it. Yeah, Egyptians, Greeks, Etruscans, Romans, they all used animal-shaped water spouts. I guess having a dude-shaped water spout would be really weird if it's just some guy like, and just throwing up water. So it does mention that human qualities were like anthropomorphized. A lot of big words today. Especially like for pagans and pagan religions and things like that. You can think of like satyrs and centaurs and all that. So Wikipedia's got fun pictures too. They lots of different kind of gargoyles. They actually remind me of the Gorgons. Maybe that word's related. Gargoyle, and it is, they're very like just beastly ugly. Like if I know we talk about Medusa, but the Gorgons were like famously ugly. And the gargoyles aren't necessarily pretty themselves, but it's really cool to see. But now you can be that guy on that vacation in France, and they'll be like, "Look at the gargoyles," and you could be like, "Actually, that's a grotesque, and that's not a gargoyle." So that's what I've imparted with you guys today, and So I do have to mention a little bit more though. The animated series, 94. Did you ever watch this, Cammy? Are you aware of it?
I am aware of it. Candace has gargoyle tattoos, and we've talked about the series a couple of times.
She has,
because of that.
Are her tattoos the animated series tattoos, or are they
no
gargoyles?
They look like gargoyles.
Do they help water flow through her body? Is that
yes?
The animated series, I don't remember it too much. I can like imagine it in my head, but it's pretty cool too. And it had the idea where the gargoyles turn to stone during the day, and then at night they're like the protectors. And I was reading the synopsis on Wikipedia. Apparently, like 1,000 years ago, from 1994, they were in Scotland, and they like got put to sleep, and then ended up in New York, and that's where their night saving stuff goes. And there's the show. It's really well known for being kind of more complicated, but yet still appealing to kids. It had like Shakespearean themes and lots of other big things like that. It's really well received. I'm sure. I mean, if you remember it, let us know if you have any specific memories. But it seems like it did a cool sort of idea on that. But it looks. I think that. I think gargoyle sounds a little better than the grotesques. So, but because I don't think that they had that function of spouting water out. But yeah, it's interesting that's it. And so gargoyles, they specifically are water spouts, and in some cases they are purposely made to look scary, to ward evil spirits in the apotropaic devices. Apotropaic, I got it. All right. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, next time you're in France, be that person who's like, actually, I hope you enjoyed that. Cammy, I really like that story. I was wondering how you were going to get the head up there. And I like it too, because it wasn't like, and he was turned to stone and to scare everyone. He was a spout. It was his head and his neck, and he's stuck, and he's just got.
Yeah, it was just his head and his neck. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So and that's typically what it is. You can't really go too complicated with a lot of them. And it's cool too. You can find they're Poland, Estonia, all these old places have variations. I mean, water spouts are needed. Anyway,
Bryant,
super
I
cool.
really hope, and like we said, we never saw it, but I really hope that the animated series, the plot of each episode was how they were going to get back to their perches to spout water out.
Right, yeah.
During
the water
rain.
flow in New York. We've got to save it, guys. Let's go. I mean, it's incredibly important. Sewer systems are like the lifeblood of many empires. It's true. All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I really did. This was no crazy Gorgon psychotherapy needed to understand this one. Let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions, let us know too. Remember, Mythstorie with an IE. It's up top on our YouTube video right there. If you have any suggestions for something we can cover, let us know. We always appreciate that, the suggestions and things like that. So the link tree in the comments for either the podcast, if you're listening to this, or YouTube, there's a link tree below. That'll take you to all our landing sites. You can take a look at our social media, all that fun stuff. Cammy, anything else to add?
I'm good.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope you gargle well in your future and that water flows away from your marble and your masonry. Right? Is that good?
Exactly.
All right, everyone. We will see you next time.
Oh!
Gargle.